Broadcasting live from California, get ready for an hour of pure, unapologetic conservative talk radio. Liberals beware, because this is the Wise Conservative Show.
Good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of the Wise Conservative Show. I hope you enjoyed that Best of the Wise Conservative Show episode last week. I couldn't make it live, but we're back live this week, and we definitely have a lot to talk about. And this is something that we have definitely talked about before, but it just keeps getting brought up and brought up because people just aren't doing their jobs when it comes to this. So, of course, Obamacare is still in place after many months of trying to come up with some sort of plan to get rid of it. Of course, both Democrats and Republicans have been at each other's throats for quite a long time about this. For a long time ago, we passed that repeal bill in the Senate and the House. It passed in both, and then Obama vetoed it. And now that we have the House, the Senate, and the presidency, we still can't figure out what to do. We've come up with 2-3 different plans now, or Republicans have, and these plans have all failed. Now, these plans weren't good whatsoever, though. We see that all of the plans that have been come up with so far have been utter failures. They haven't actually repealed Obamacare. They haven't actually kept the promises that these people made to their constituents. All of these previous bills have not only kept the mandates in place that we want out of there, but they've actually hurt the consumer more than even Obamacare was. They've given more money to insurance companies. Insurance companies don't need that money. What they have done is essentially expanded Obamacare. And this really begs the question to be asked. And this is something that we have been asking for a very long time. Why don't they just repeal Obamacare? Why don't the Republicans in the Senate and in the House vote on something that is a full repeal? That's exactly what they said they would do on the campaign trail. That's what they said when they were campaigning years ago, saying, if you vote for us and you give us the House, if you give us the Senate, then we will vote on this. We will repeal Obamacare. So we voted for them. We gave them the House and the Senate. And I'll give it to them. They did pass a repeal under Obama's presidency. That wasn't their fault at that point. But now we do have a president that's a Republican as well, and that has said that he will vote for a repeal. He campaigned on it. And we still don't have a repeal. We still don't have a full repeal in place. We've had conservatives being excluded from discussions because they're actually talking about full repeals. Conservatives such as the Freedom Caucus in the House, conservatives such as Senator Ted Cruz, Mike Lee, Rand Paul, all of these conservatives who are keeping their promises are now being threatened by the establishment because they are not voting for these horrible bills, because they want to hold out for a full and a real repeal. These establishment senators and House of Representatives, these establishment people, they're completely going around their promises. They're completely lying to America once again. They want something that expands the government. They want something that doesn't take it away from the federal government. They want something that we know won't work. Why can't they just get a full repeal put into place? It's very simple. They've already passed this bill once. Get the same exact bill that they passed back then and pass it again. President Trump will definitely sign it. He will definitely approve of it. But for some reason, that's too hard for these people. For some reason, they just can't get a full repeal out onto the floor. Now, of course, a full repeal is something that just about every single Republican has said that they wanted in the past, whether you're a senator or representative or even just an American citizen, anyone on the right has said that they just want to repeal Obamacare at one point or another. And Democrats have said that that is the worst thing possible. Well, now it's coming out that an Obamacare repeal would leave 32 million people more without insurance. Now, this is coming out of the CBO. And there's definitely a reason for why this would leave 32 million more uninsured. What they're essentially saying here is that a full repeal, which is what we want, a full repeal would make it so that these people don't have Obamacare anymore. They're not using the government to get their insurance. The CBO isn't taking into account the fact that once we have the free market back in place, the prices will go down, that people will actually be able to purchase insurance. A staggering statistic that not too many people know. 8 million people in the United States would rather take the fine that Obamacare put into place for not having health insurance. They'd rather pay that fine than be on the lousy system of Obamacare. 8 million people. That's quite a bit. That's how you know that Obamacare was a failure. That's how you know that we do have to repeal it. What the CBO is saying is that premiums are going to rise if we repeal Obamacare. But folks, let's actually look at reality here. Premiums are rising under Obamacare. Under Obamacare, Arizona has a 116% increase, and many other states have over 100% increases in their premiums in this past year. Obamacare didn't work at decreasing premiums. Obamacare didn't work at helping the consumer. Obamacare was a complete failure. But the CBO has had it at Trump's agenda from the moment he took office. Everyone in the Congressional Budget Office have said that everything that Republicans do is going to completely ruin this country. And it's just not true, folks. We know that the free market will lower the premiums. We know that with the free market and competition, that people will be able to actually get insurance. People will actually be able to pay for it. People aren't able to pay for Obamacare because the system is too big, too delocalized, it's too centralized to be effective. We have a very diverse nation, a very vast nation. Someone in Alaska does not need the same policy as someone in New York City. We do not need a system which thinks that every single person in the entire United States needs the same exact policy. They need the same exact requirements. We don't need to mandate what people can and cannot purchase in their insurance. Because not everybody needs that. Not everybody can afford that. Especially when there's not competition. We see states, very liberal states such as New York and California, and they're looking to implement universal health care in their states. And again, it's the same issue. With universal health care, though, it's even worse. With universal health care, which is essentially the next step beyond Obamacare, this is where Democrats want to take the country. This is where the left wants us to go. With universal health care, now there's no insurance companies, no one competing whatsoever, and the government controls it all. Now the government sets the price for everything. And this is where Democrats want to take our nation, where the government controls the market completely. That's not America right there. That's essentially communism, where the government controls the market. America was founded upon free market principles. It has thrived upon free market principles for centuries. But for some reason, within the past couple decades, liberals have gotten it into their mind that the free market doesn't work. For some reason, they think that competition doesn't drive down prices. The competition doesn't help the consumer. But you see, that's the thing about the free market. It does help the consumer. It does drive down prices. Within capitalism, everybody has an unequal value of wealth. Under systems that Democrats want to put into place, everyone has an equal amount of poorness because everyone is legislated to less money. They're legislating people out of prosperity. That's what they want. And so they complain when we try and get these full repeals. And this is why a lot of establishment people don't want a full repeal of Obamacare, because there's so many people on the left in this nation that are complaining about it. They're not thinking about the promises and the people who actually got them elected. The people who got them elected wanted a full repeal. They wanted a free market solution. Not a solution that expands the government, not a solution that oversteps its bounds and forces people to buy certain things. That's not how America is supposed to work, and that's not how healthcare is supposed to work. It does not help the consumer when that is happening. But speaking of the government going places where they shouldn't, overstepping their bounds, the USPS now apparently was favoring Hillary Clinton in this previous election. Of course, that's the United States Postal Service. They're definitely taking heat now because today during a hearing, it was brought out that they allegedly violated federal law by favoring a union doing pro-Clinton campaign work. So this report was just released today, folks, and it was this morning. It was released by the Office of Special Counsel, and it said that the USPS engaged in, quote, systematic violations of the Hatch Act. That's, of course, a federal law that limits certain political activities of federal employees. Now, definitely employees are allowed to do some political work. Of course, you can't just cut everyone out from doing any politics if they work for the government. But the report said that the Postal Service definitely showed a bias in favor of the National Association of Letter Carriers, or the NALC. The NALC was extremely helpful towards Clinton's campaign, and they definitely contributed not only a lot of money towards Clinton's campaign, but also a lot of time and resources towards it. The Senate Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee, they heard the testimony from USPS and OSC officials today, along with USPS mail carrier who shared complaints with the committee chairman, Ron Johnson, who's a Republican from Wisconsin, in October of last year. Citing the OSC report, quote, Postal Service leadership took official actions with the intent of enabling the campaign activity of its union, and with a clear understanding of what that activity involved. Quote, based on these findings, it is legitimate to wonder why no one will be held accountable, how Postal Service leadership allowed this systemic violation of the Hatch Act to go on for 20 years. And is this occurring in other federal agencies? Johnson was the first notified of the violations in October by Tim Kopp, who is a letter carrier for the USPS and a member of the NALC. Kopp thought the actions were illegal and was concerned the Postal Service, quote, incurred unnecessary overtime costs and improperly coordinated with the NALC when it released several members for weeks of union official leave without pay to participate in partisan campaign work. Kopp told the Senate panel today, I want things done fairly, and I don't want things done on a partisan issue. The union is always involved in highly political activities, and I didn't want this to be a partisan thing. I wanted this to be where the general public does not lose trust in the Postal Service. There are a lot of good employees, but the way this was done, it was a nightmare. According to the OSC report, roughly 97 NALC members requested the leave without pay to participate in get out to the vote efforts in battleground states this past year. The NALC, which endorsed Hillary Clinton last June, compensated those USPS workers using the Letter Carrier Political Fund, which is that union's PAC. And officials at multiple levels within the USPS were reportedly involved in this. So let's break this down a little bit. Basically, what's being found here is an institutional bias within the USPS. An institutional bias which favors liberal candidates. A bias which allowed them to go out and campaign for Hillary Clinton, and they were being compensated for it by the union. The USPS should not be supporting any unions whatsoever, but we saw high officials in this going out there, supporting that union, going out there, and actually doing campaign work as well. This definitely violates the Hatch Act. This violates the non-biased USPS. 97 workers, 97 of those NALC members went out and did this kind of stuff. And this should be a bigger deal than it is. No one's going to come under fire for this. No one's going to take any responsibility for this. Everyone within the USPS is just going to dodge questions. They're not going to have to answer for what they did. And yeah, it definitely does beg the question to be asked, like Ron Johnson said. Is this happening in other federal agencies? Is the Hatch Act being violated in more than just the USPS? Because this has been going on for 20 years, according to the policy that the USPS said it had. It said that this was a policy for over 20 years, that they were allowing the NALC to do this for 20 years, and the NALC has only supported pro-union candidates, which are always Democrats. So what's happened for the past 20 years is the USPS has been violating the Hatch Act. And where else in our government is this happening? Where else is there an institutional bias? This is a bigger deal than a lot of people are making it out to be. Because, yeah, it's the mail service. It's not that big of the federal government. I get it. But there is a much bigger issue at hand because we have no clue what other agencies have done this. We have no clue who else has violated the Hatch Act. We have no clue who else has this bias. So this really reveals a bigger issue at hand. A bigger issue that, yeah, this definitely could be a huge bias within our government. There could be a huge bias behind the scenes to support certain candidates. We've seen it before, folks, and I wouldn't be surprised if more than just the USPS did this kind of thing. I wouldn't be surprised if there were more people working with unions like this to support candidates. All right, I'm going to take a quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere. This is the Wise Conservative Show. Hi, everybody. Connor Wise here with an exclusive clip from the Wise Conservative Show. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. And every time that these universities take up this new social change that they're trying to promote, every time they take that up, they are taking away from that education instead. Because now they're focusing on these social changes instead of learning like they should be.
Ever wanted to learn the history of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in less than 10 minutes? Are you looking for the truth about the so-called gender wage gap? Well, my friends, I'll let you in on a little secret. Prager University is a source that I use all the time when preparing for my show, the Jason Veely Program. Dennis Prager and his team have put together a remarkable organization that seeks to explain and spread Americanism through the power of the internet. Their short yet extremely informative videos reach more than 100 million people per year, and they want to reach you as well. Go on YouTube and type in Prager University, or go to prageru.com for all of their latest content. That's Prager, the letter U.com. prageru.com.
Have you ever wanted to stand up to your liberal professor? Have you ever wanted to help expand the conservative movement? Well, it sounds like you would be a perfect fit for Youth Revolt. Youth Revolt is a team of dedicated young conservatives fighting liberal indoctrination within our school system. If you're interested in being a part of this team by being a columnist or even hosting your own radio show, go ahead and click the Join Now tab at the top of youthrevolt.org. You'll be asked to answer a few questions, and a Youth Revolt team member will respond to you quickly. Be a part of something bigger than you. Be a part of Youth Revolt. Speak without fear.
My friends, I'm going to be blunt with you. There are a lot of frauds out there today. People who claim to be conservatives and yet, in one way or another, believe that more government is the solution to our problems. That's not what conservatism is about, and even more than that, that's not what our Constitution is about. I'm Jason Veely, a recent college grad who has the guts to say what needs to be said without pulling any punches. On my radio show, you can expect 100% pure conservatism every single weeknight at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Join me as we discuss history, liberty, and conservative philosophy in a style that is just as entertaining as it is educational. Who says we can't have fun tearing down the liberal establishment? Tune in to the Jason Veely program live every weeknight at 7 o'clock on youthrevolt.org. I'll see you out on the battlefield.
Love Trump's hate! Love Trump's hate! Love Trump's hate!
Love trumping hate involves a lot more assault and arson than I expected. The Wise Conservative Show, Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, only on Youth Revolt. Welcome back to the Wise Conservative Show. Once again, I'm your host, Connor Wise. Now, during that last break, I was looking up a poll that I had seen a while ago, but I hadn't ever saved it. And I did find it because this next article that I'm going to talk about in this next segment is talking about voter info and the states that are withholding the information. Of course, we know that a lot of states... they're withholding information from the Trump administration who are trying to get information about voter fraud, of course, with the Voter Fraud Commission. It's kicking off its first meeting and repeatedly declaring voter information will be forthcoming from the roughly 20 states that have yet to comply with the group's request. Trump in May announced the formation of the Presidential Advisory Commission on Election Integrity. The commission sparked controversy several weeks ago by asking states to provide voter information including names, voting history, and party affiliation. Nearly 20 states have reportedly yet to comply with this request. Quote, more than 30 states have already shared this information. And the other states, that information will be forthcoming, Trump said. So the full truth will be known and exposed, if necessary, in the light of day. The 12-member bipartisan group will looking into such matters as voter suppression, registration, the voting processes, policies, and rules during federal elections. Trump suggested in his winning 2016 White House campaign the possibility of voter fraud, particularly in large Democratic strongholds like Philadelphia. Officials have said the Presidential Commission will also examine ways to protect voting systems from foreign interference. Of course, that's amid high-level probes into Russia interference in this past election. This commission is being led by Vice President Mike Pence, who at the White House meeting called the right to vote, quote, the crown jewel of American liberty. He continued, by establishing this commission, President Trump is taking action to ensure that the ballot box remains inviolate and that the crown jewel shines brighter than ever before. Now, I did talk about a poll that I looked up over the commercial break, and this poll is actually pretty staggering. Now, a big part of preventing voter fraud, of course, is presenting a photo ID when you go to vote. Of course, if you watch the media, you listen to different media outlets, whether it's CNN, MSNBC, ABC, all these liberal ones, they say that nobody supports this, that this is a violation of rights, that this is horrible, and that no one in the country supports it. Well, if we look at a Gallup poll, just from this last year, from this last year, there's a Gallup poll that says that 80% of Americans support photo ID requirements for voting. Now, we can break that down even farther, but 80% is already staggering. We look at Republicans, and of course, a large majority, 95% of Republicans agree with this. 83% of independents agree with it, and the lowest, but still higher than the media would have you believe, 63% of Democrats agree with the fact that photo ID should be required for voting. But you listen to the media, you listen to all these different people, and they say that, oh no, this is a suppression of rights, we shouldn't have voter ID. You listen to our previous president, and they say, no, voter ID laws are horrible, and they actually encourage illegals to go out and vote. I played that clip on the show a while ago of President Obama urging an illegal alien to go out there and vote in the election. See, that's why Democrats, establishment Democrats, people in the media, all these extreme liberals, they don't want photo ID requirements because then illegals can vote too. Then there's no incentive to get your citizenship. But with a photo ID requirement, it basically takes voter fraud off of the table. And we've already seen it implemented in a couple states, including Texas, and it's worked wonders. Voter ID laws are not this suppression that a lot of people say. They say, this is a very common argument. I'm not sure if you've heard it or not. It's a very common argument for this, though. People say that the lower class citizens within America can't get IDs. They can't get valid federal IDs or state IDs so that they would be able to vote. But anyone can get a federal ID or a state ID. It's not hard. And I guarantee all of those lower class, more poor Americans, I guarantee they still have photo IDs. It's something that everyone carries on them just about every day. Your driver's license, your passport, something like that. Almost all Americans have a photo ID, and those that don't generally are very young and they have no need for voting anyway because they can't vote yet. Photo IDs are very common, and anyone, whether you're the top 1% of the nation's wealth or you're the bottom 99%, you're going to have a photo ID. Photo ID requirements are something that will stop voter fraud from happening. And I wanted to talk about that definitely because this voter fraud commission is actually very important. And with these 20 states not complying, it's kind of sad because there's no reason for them not to comply here. There's no reason for them not to allow this commission to look into voter fraud issues. Voter fraud is a huge threat to American democracy because if you allow people who aren't citizens to vote, it changes the entire outcome of the vote. If you allow people to vote as a dead person, which has happened in not only Florida but many other states as well, it changes the results. Voter fraud is a key issue, and it's something that a lot of people don't take serious enough. It's something that, like the media, they just dismiss it. They say it can't happen. People in the establishment of Democrats, actually the majority of elected official Democrats, say that voter fraud isn't an issue. But then we see, according to that Gallup poll, 63% of Democrats think that it is an issue. 95% of Republicans think that it's an issue. 83% of independents think that it's an issue. So why haven't we enacted these laws? Why haven't we made it so that you have to provide a photo ID. There's no reason not to. All it does is actually help this nation. All right, so this next article that I'm going to read to you guys, this is from the Washington Post. Now, I know that the Washington Post is very biased, so that's why I'm kind of telling you guys this. There's this article that they just put out about how Trump, he just ended a covert CIA program, which was arming anti-Assad rebels within Syria. And then the title continues after that, a move sought by Moscow. So you can already tell where this article is going. But let's keep going. President Trump has decided to end the CIA's covert program to arm and train moderate Syrian rebels battling the government of Bashar al-Assad, a move long sought by Russia, according to U.S. officials. The program was a central plank of policy begun by the Obama administration in 2013 to put pressure on Assad to step aside. But even its backers have questioned its efficacy, since Russia deployed forces in Syria 2 years later. Officials said the phasing out of secret programs, now this is where it gets good, folks. Officials said the phasing out of the secret program reflects Trump's interest in finding ways to work with Russia, which saw the anti-Assad program as an assault on its interests. The shuttering of the program is also an acknowledgement of Washington's limited leverage and desire to move Assad from power. So then it goes on and just explains the whole Syria situation. And right here, it actually admits that this wasn't about this. They're trying to frame this so that it looks like Trump and Putin talked about this, and that's when he came up with the decision at the G20 summit. But then it actually contradicts itself here, and it says the officials said Trump made the decision to scrap this program nearly a month ago, after an Oval Office meeting with CIA Director Mike Pompeo and National Security Advisor. And so this was way before the meeting with Vladimir Putin. And they're still trying to frame this as if he discussed this with Putin. He discussed this, and he wanted to get Russia's interest put into America's policy. They're trying to say that getting rid of this program was a move to help Russia. They have some quotes from former officials, so Obama officials, saying, quote, "This is a momentous decision." And he's saying that this is allowing Putin to win in Syria. They could go on to say that, quote, "We are falling into a Russian trap." This is from Charles Lister, who's a senior fellow at the Middle East Institute. Quote, "We are making the moderate resistance more and more vulnerable. We are really cutting them off at the neck." They're basically saying that ending this program, this is where it continues, ending this program was likely to empower more radical groups inside of Syria. Because without us giving weapons to, who knows, we don't even know who these people are. Without us giving weapons to them, they're going to become more radicalized because they won't have as many weapons. Because that makes sense. And again, this is something that I applaud Donald Trump on doing. It's something that I've said we should have stopped a long time ago. We don't need to arm rebels within Syria because where has that gotten us? Let's look at some other times when we've armed rebels in the Middle East. We armed Osama bin Laden. We trained him with the CIA. He ended up being a huge terrorist and attacked America. We armed rebels within Libya, and now they're terrorists. They're in ISIS now, terrorizing the entire Middle East and the entire world. Every time we give arms to these rebel groups, they turn into their own terrorist organization. Furthermore, there's reports that have come out a while ago that the rebels that we were arming within Syria are working with Al-Qaeda. That Al-Qaeda is a part of these rebels that we're arming. Now, of course, that's not confirmed because we have no way of confirming who these people are. Not even our own government knows who we're arming, really. Because there's no way to know. There's no way to know what their beliefs are, how radicalized they are, who exactly they're working with. Arming these rebels will only lead to more violence. Now, I'm not saying we should support Assad. Definitely not. He is a horrible leader and a vicious man. But that doesn't mean we need to be giving weapons to more people who could potentially be terrorists. Arming people in the Middle East has never worked. It has never worked, and it never will work, because then they go and they realize, wait, we can use these to attack other people. We can use these weapons that we now own to do whatever we want. And when there's a power vacuum, after a civil war ends, and they have all these new shiny weapons, very powerful weapons that we gave them, they get to decide what they do. They get to decide who they kill next. And that's what would happen when the power vacuum happens in Syria, because it will happen eventually, folks. These programs to arm rebels never work. And I applaud President Trump for ending this program. It's something that I didn't think he would do. I applaud him for that. And I was, of course, looking through the comments on this article. And it's all people saying, oh, this is just proof that Russia and Trump are colluding. And they're saying that, oh, they must have discussed this at G20. And all of these different things that just aren't true. This Russia collusion story we've proven already isn't true. CNN itself has said that it's fake. But people continue to spout out that narrative. People continue to say that this is real. But it's not, folks. And we can clearly see that they're not actually looking at facts, at the past examples, at what's actually going on in the Middle East. These are just war hawks within the Democratic Party who want us to continue to arm a rebel group that is possibly working with Al-Qaeda. We could be arming Al-Qaeda for all we know. But because President Trump doesn't want it, they're suddenly against it. They're suddenly against whatever he does. If you notice, you watch what these Democrats do after everything Trump implements, after every program he cuts. They say, oh, this is the end. This is proof of collusion. This is Donald Trump working as Putin's puppet. It's the response to everything he does. It doesn't matter what the program he is. It doesn't matter what the policy he put into place is. It doesn't matter what executive order he signed. Anything he does, they say, is exactly what Putin wanted him to do. But the real reason is because they actually have no arguments. They're still mad about the fact that they lost the election. So they're trying to find some way to make themselves feel better about it. All right, I'm going to take one last quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere. This is the Wise Conservative Show. Hi, everybody. Connor Wise here with an exclusive clip from the Wise Conservative Show. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. How haven't all of these protesters realized that they are the exact reason why Donald Trump was elected in the first place? How haven't they realized that them being crybabies about every single thing in life is exactly why the American people rose up and voted for Donald Trump? They are the whole reason that they have all this misery currently.
If you got a business, that you didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen.
Get out of here, you idiot. Sorry about that, folks. Jason Veely here, host of the Jason Veely program. I'm a 22-year-old conservative who is fired up and ticked off at the direction the progressive left have taken this country. Join me every weeknight at 7 o'clock as we promote liberty, advance conservative principle, and work to restore the Constitution of the United States. I can get loud and I can get passionate. How can we afford not to when so much is on the line? Tune in to the Jason Veely program, live every weeknight at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time on youthrevolt.org. I'll see you out on the battlefield.
Hi, everybody. Connor Wise here with an exclusive clip from the Wise Conservative Show. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. And every time that these universities take up this new social change that they're trying to promote, every time they take that up, they are taking away from that education instead. Because now they're focusing on these social changes instead of learning like they should be.
Calling all young conservatives. Have you ever wanted to write for an online publication? What about host your own conservative radio program? Now you can, thanks to youthrevolt.org. Youth Revolt is a conservative media network for young people, the goal of which is to educate our fellow Americans and also to expose the left-wing indoctrination that goes on in classrooms across the country. Become part of a team that is dedicated to taking the country back, one radio program or opinion column at a time. If you're interested, go to youthrevolt.org and click on Join Us on the top of the page. Fill out our brief questionnaire, and one of our representatives will be in touch with you in no time at all. The time to reclaim our future is now. Be a part of something that's bigger than yourself, and join the movement today. Youth Revolt. Speak without fear. Ever wanted to learn the history of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in less than 10 minutes? Are you looking for the truth about the so-called gender wage gap? Well, my friends, I'll let you in on a little secret. Prager University is a source that I use all the time when preparing for my show, the Jason Veely Program. Dennis Prager and his team have put together a remarkable organization that seeks to explain and spread Americanism through the power of the internet. Their short yet extremely informative videos reach more than 100 million people per year, and they want to reach you as well. Go on YouTube and type in Prager University, or go to prageru.com for all of their latest content. That's Prager, the letter U.com. prageru.com.
Love Trump's hate! Love Trump's hate! Love Trump's hate!
Love trumping hate involves a lot more assault and arson than I expected. The Wise Conservative Show, Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, only on Youth Revolt. Welcome back to the Wise Conservative Show. Once again, I'm your host, Connor Wise. Now, we all know that a lot of different people or states across the nation try all the time to figure out different ways to take away different aspects of the Second Amendment, take away the Second Amendment completely if they could. Of course, here in California, they would do that if they could. So definitely across the entire nation, a bunch of these liberal states try whatever they can to get this done. Well, there's a lawsuit that's been filed in federal court this past week that alleges that the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services violated the gun rights of foster parents. Caseworkers from MDHHS, or the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and a county judge told William Johnson that he had to choose between his Second Amendment rights and the fostering of his grandson. Now, this is according to a complaint filed with the United States District Court for the Western District of Michigan. The 54-year-old Johnson is a retired disabled Marine with a Michigan concealed pistol license. He and his wife were asked by the state of Michigan to foster their grandson. According to Johnson's suit, however, the issues began as soon as he arrived to pick up the child. Johnson said he was searched for a firearm, and although he was not carrying a gun, officials demanded to see his concealed carry license. He was then told he would need to give the agency the serial numbers of all of his firearms including rifles and shotguns, and register them with the agency. After questioning why he would have to register his firearms in order to foster his grandson, Johnson said he was told by one caseworker, quote, "If you want to care for your grandson, you will have to give up some of your constitutional rights." When he objected, he was told there would not be a power struggle and the agency would, quote, "just take his grandson and place him in a foster home if he didn't comply with their requests." 2 weeks later, during the hearing on the placement of the child, Johnson said that the county court judge similarly told him, quote, "If you want to care for your grandson, you will have to give up some of your constitutional rights." So what's happening here is a complete violation of his rights, first off. But they're saying that if he wants to take care of his own family member, if he wants to take care of his grandson, then he's not able to have his Second Amendment rights now. Because apparently, if you want to take care of someone in your family, you're not allowed to have rights. You're not allowed to own any firearms anymore. You're not allowed to have rights that were given to you by birth. These people act like they can just take away these rights at any moment. They can take away them just because this person wants to take care of his grandson. It makes no sense why, to take care of your own family member, you would need to give up all of your firearms. It makes no sense why you would have to limit your own rights to take care of a family member. And then the government threatens you, saying that if you don't give up your firearms, they're going to take that grandson away and put him in some random person's foster home. Just because you didn't give up your Second Amendment right. This is a blatant disregard for his rights. There's no reason why this should happen. There's no reason why, to foster a child, you shouldn't own any firearms. No reason whatsoever. But this is what liberals think. They think that no one should own firearms. They think that firearms are dangerous, that because some criminals use them wrongly, that no one should be allowed to own them. That because there's criminals who use them to rob stores, to murder people, that this retired Marine grandparent would use it for harm. It makes no sense. It makes no sense, the logic that they use for this. The logic that they use is flawed. It is based off of lies. It is not based off of reality. There's no reason why your constitutional rights, which are not given to you by the government, which they make it seem like here, your constitutional rights, which are given to you by birth, there's no reason why they should be taken away to take care of a family member. This is just another blatant disregard of this man's rights, and we see it across the nation in liberal states all the time. States such as California, they implement all of these different gun laws, essentially making it so that it's too expensive or too limited to own any firearms that no one will. Go around trying to collect the ones that don't meet the standards anymore. You have to pay so many taxes on firearms in liberal states, not only just on the actual firearm, but also on the ammunition, that it's so that you can't afford it anymore. And these taxes don't go to anything good. They just go to expanding the bureaucratic nonsense that goes on. And that's how it is across the nation. Liberals have realized that the more they legislate people out of their gun rights, that then we won't have the Second Amendment anymore. Then it will be limited. And they're trying to tax it out in many different states, trying to tax you so that you won't be able to afford any of this. And in other states, we see they try and take away your gun rights for trying to support your own family member, trying to raise your grandson. Liberals would love it if we had no more firearms in this nation. But look how well that's worked out in Chicago. Look how well gun control works in nations such as Australia, which has no guns, but their violent crime rate is still just as high as when they had firearms. Look at all these different places that have such high gun control, yet still such high murder rates. It's because gun control doesn't work, and there's no reason why the government should be legislating people out of their firearms to take care of a grandson. No reason whatsoever. It's another overstep of the government. It's another overstep of a liberal judge and of a liberal agency. We see all the time there's this bias within the government, within these bureaucratic agencies, and it's something that we can't really do anything about. This man won't be able to take care of his grandson if he has firearms, and that's their final say. That's what they said, and now he's going to have to give up his rights. It's a sad, sad state of our nation when that's able to happen. It's a sad state that you have to give up your rights so that you can take care of a family member, where you have to pay immense amount of taxes so that you can have your constitutional rights. I don't see them taxing any other constitutional right, but it's because they would love to get rid of the Second Amendment. All right, that's all for today's episode of The Wise Conservative Show. I'm your host, Connor Wise. You can find me on youthrevolt.org. Go ahead and search Youth Revolt up on Facebook. You can find me at Spreaker.com/TheWiseConservative. And of course on Instagram at @the_wise_conservative. I'd like to thank you all for listening. And as always, God bless.